Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness, as absence, as a lack of sound or expression. Yet, if one looks closer, silence is not a void but a presence. It is a living space in which the truth of one's own being becomes visible. Silence is like a mirror. It does not add anything. It does not take anything away. It simply reflects what is already there. To enter silence is to confront the reflection of the self, unfiltered and unadorned. This is why so many resist it. The noise of the world is easier to embrace because within the noise there is distraction, there is escape, there is an endless opportunity to avoid seeing what is uncomfortable within. But silence strips away those escapes, and in the stillness the reflection stares back. When silence is approached with openness, it becomes the most honest teacher. A mirror does not flatter. It does not distort to make one feel more comfortable. It simply reveals. In the same way, silence reveals the restlessness of the mind, the unsettled emotions buried within, the heaviness that has been carried without awareness. To sit in silence is to notice how the mind wants to wander, how the body grows uneasy, how memories surface, how hidden worries float upward. This can feel overwhelming, but it is not punishment. It is clarity. The mirror of silence does not create what is seen. It only reflects what was already there. Many search outside themselves for answers, for guidance, for meaning. They read, they ask, they seek validation from others, and still they remain unsatisfied. What they overlook is the possibility that the most direct path to understanding is already within them, waiting in silence. In silence, the external voices fall away. There is no comparison, no judgment, no influence from the outside world. What remains is the inner dialogue, and this is where the work begins. The mirror shows not only the surface image, but also the deeper currents. To face silence is to face oneself without disguise. Silence also reflects the energy one carries. If agitation is present, silence will magnify it. If peace is present, silence will deepen it. Just as a calm lake reflects the sky with perfect clarity, a calm mind reflects reality without distortion. But if the water is disturbed, the image becomes unclear. Silence teaches the same principle. The way one experiences silence depends on the state of one's inner being. This is why practices of meditation and mindful breathing are not about adding something new, but about settling what is already there, allowing the mirror of silence to show a clearer reflection. For some, silence is frightening because it strips away the masks, the roles we play in daily life. The worker, the parent, the friend, the achiever are all left behind when one sits in silence. What is left is the raw, unguarded self. The mirror does not reflect titles or accomplishments. It reflects being. In this way, silence challenges identity. It asks, who are you when there is no one to impress, no task to complete, no role to perform? The answers that arise are not always comfortable, but they are necessary. They point toward authenticity, toward living with less pretense, toward finding peace not in what one does, but in what one is. Silence also reveals patterns. In stillness, one begins to notice how the mind repeats certain thoughts again and again, how emotions cycle through, how desires and fears pull at attention. Without silence, these patterns remain hidden, disguised by constant activity. But when the world grows quiet, the patterns stand exposed. This is the gift of the mirror. It does not allow one to hide. It reveals habits of thought, hidden attachments, old wounds still unhealed. To see them clearly is the first step toward releasing them. At the same time, silence is not only about exposure. It is also about expansion. When one accepts what is reflected without judgment, silence becomes spacious. The chatter of the mind grows quieter, the body relaxes, and a deeper stillness emerges. In this deeper silence, one discovers a connection to something larger, something beyond the individual self. It is as if the mirror not only reflects the inner world, but also opens a window into the greater reality. The silence within mirrors the silence of the universe itself, and in that reflection a sense of unity arises. Silence as a mirror also cultivates humility. Just as one cannot argue with the reflection in a glass mirror, one cannot argue with what silence reveals. To accept the reflection is to accept oneself as one truly is, with all strengths and all flaws. This acceptance is not resignation but clarity. From clarity comes the possibility of transformation. When one sees clearly, one knows what must be released, what must be cultivated, what must be aligned. Without silence, one risks living in illusion, mistaking noise for truth, distraction for fulfillment. With silence, one faces truth directly, however uncomfortable it may be. The mirror of silence does not flatter, but it frees. It frees by reflecting reality as it is, by removing illusions, by showing the self unmasked. It is a discipline to enter silence, and it is a challenge to remain there long enough to see clearly. But for those who do, silence becomes more than the absence of noise. It becomes the greatest teacher, the purest reflection, the clearest mirror. There is a difference between the language spoken by the mouth and the language expressed by the body. Words are easy to form, easy to shape, and easy to release. They can be manipulated, twisted, or even concealed. But a reaction, the way one responds in the silence of an unprepared moment, holds a truth that words cannot cover. Reactions expose the depth of a person's conditioning, the maturity of their discipline, and the clarity of their mind. While words can be rehearsed, a reaction is raw. It emerges directly from within, revealing the state of inner being without filter. From the earliest stages of life, human beings are taught the importance of language. Children are corrected in how to speak, what words to use, and how to respond politely. But far fewer are ever taught how to react. When faced with challenge, insult, or disappointment, the mind tends to grasp for a defensive pattern. The body tightens, the face hardens, and the tone sharpens. These are not chosen responses, but rather reflexes conditioned through repetition. Reaction is the mirror of what resides in the subconscious, and it is precisely this mirror that cannot be polished by mere words. Consider the nature of fire. The flame has no need to declare its heat. When you touch it, you feel the truth instantly. Similarly, a person's reaction carries the direct impact of their inner state. You do not need them to speak to know if they are calm or restless, centered or unstable. A calm presence can diffuse conflict without uttering a single phrase, while an unsteady reaction can ignite confrontation even when words are soft. This is why the essence of growth does not lie in perfecting speech, but in refining the state from which reactions emerge. Reactions are powerful because they are fast. They arrive before thought has time to dress them in logic. They appear like lightning, sudden and unannounced. In that speed lies the revelation of character. If anger has been stored, it rises quickly. If fear has been buried, it trembles to the surface. If wisdom has been cultivated, then patience appears instead. This immediacy is the reason why true discipline cannot be measured by words alone, but by the consistency of one's reactions across time and circumstance. The path of inner practice is not about suppressing reactions, but transforming them. Suppression is only silence on the surface, while underneath the storm continues to build. Transformation means dissolving the patterns that feed the storm itself. When discipline becomes natural, the reaction changes. The raised voice softens, the restless body steadies, the defensive mind becomes receptive. Such transformation cannot be faked. It must be lived into existence through training, awareness, and intentional alignment. In every human interaction, there is a space where words meet reaction. Sometimes words are kind, but reactions betray impatience. Sometimes words are harsh, but the reaction shows compassion. It is in this meeting space that true communication occurs. People often forget the details of what was said, but they rarely forget how they felt in someone's presence. That feeling is not carried by vocabulary, but by reaction. The tone, the timing, the posture, the energy. All of these create an imprint deeper than the literal meaning of words. Observe carefully the moments when you are provoked. The instant you feel the rising urge to defend or attack, that is the moment where reaction reveals your inner discipline. If you pause, if you breathe, if you choose stillness over impulse, the entire situation can shift. This is not weakness, it is mastery. It is far easier to lash out with words than it is to hold steady in silence. Silence that arises from clarity is not empty, but full of presence, and presence itself communicates more powerfully than speech. Reactions are also the building blocks of relationships. Trust does not grow because of what people say, it grows because of how they consistently react. Promises can be spoken, but reliability is proven in action. Apologies can be given, but sincerity is shown in the response that follows. To understand someone's heart, do not focus on their declarations. Focus on their reactions in the small, unnoticed moments. There the truth is revealed without disguise. The cultivation of controlled reaction is like tempering steel. Raw iron is soft and easily bent, but when it is heated, hammered, and cooled with precision, it becomes unbreakable. Likewise, the human mind must be tested through the fire of challenge. Each test is an opportunity to strengthen the reaction, to refine the immediate impulse, and to align it with deeper principles. Over time, the once restless mind learns to hold calm in the midst of chaos, and the once quick temper transforms into unwavering composure. When words and reactions are aligned, authenticity arises. Words without aligned reactions are empty, while reactions without conscious words can appear blunt. Together, they create harmony. But the foundation always begins with reaction, for reaction cannot be fake. It is the true evidence of where a person stands. By transforming reactions, the words that follow also shift naturally, carrying greater weight because they are supported by consistency. Detachment is not the absence of care, it is the presence of clarity. To understand detachment, one must first examine attachment. Human beings cling to ideas, to people, to emotions, to outcomes as if their very existence depended upon it. This clinging creates invisible chains. These chains may not be seen, but they are felt. They weigh on the mind, they burden the heart, they constrict the spirit. Detachment, then, is not a rejection of life. It is the art of unbinding oneself from what enslaves the inner world. It is the realization that freedom does not come from adding more, but from loosening the grip on what we already hold too tightly. When you attach yourself to a thought, it begins to rule you. When you attach yourself to an outcome, you begin to fear its absence. When you attach yourself to a person, you may confuse possession with connection. The root of suffering lies in this very tendency. Detachment invites you to step back, to observe rather than to cling, to flow rather than to resist. It does not mean indifference. It does not mean coldness. It does not mean withdrawal. Instead, it means standing in your center, unshaken by the changing winds of circumstance, unbroken by the loss of what was never truly yours to begin with. The world is constantly shifting. Relationships change, health changes, wealth changes, seasons change. Yet when one attaches to these impermanent things, the shifting feels like a threat. Detachment teaches you to embrace impermanence rather than fight it. Like water flowing down a mountain stream, life does not cling to the rocks it passes by. It moves, it bends, it adapts, it continues. To live in detachment is to embody this flow. It is to accept that nothing remains the same, and in that acceptance lies strength. Consider how often attachment creates suffering. A desire not fulfilled becomes frustration. A relationship not reciprocated becomes heartbreak. A success not achieved becomes despair. But what if you could step back and recognize that no external achievement, no person, no outcome defines your essence? What if you could acknowledge that all things, whether pleasant or painful, are experiences passing through your awareness? Detachment allows this recognition. It allows the freedom to experience deeply without being consumed. You can love fully yet not be destroyed by loss. You can strive greatly yet not be shattered by failure. You can appreciate beauty yet not mourn its fading. The practice of detachment begins with awareness. To notice the pull of the mind that clings, to notice the fear of letting go, to notice the restlessness when things do not go as planned. This awareness is like a mirror showing you the ways in which you are bound. With awareness comes the possibility of release. Detachment grows not by force, but by insight. By understanding that the tighter you hold, the more fragile you become. By understanding that freedom cannot coexist with chains. By understanding that the essence of life is not in control, but in surrender. Detachment is not a passive act. It is an active alignment with the present moment. It is a discipline of remaining rooted in what is, rather than what the mind demands should be. To detach is to reclaim your energy from the constant grasping and redirect it toward inner balance. Imagine how much energy is wasted in worry, in comparison, in jealousy, in regret. Imagine if that energy were returned to you. It would not only heal your mind, but illuminate your path. Detachment is the process of reclaiming that power. In silence, detachment deepens. When the noise of the world quiets down, you begin to hear the subtler movements of the mind. You see how thoughts insist on holding on. You see how desires chase endlessly. You see how fears whisper of loss. With detachment, you do not silence these movements by suppression, but by no longer granting them authority. You observe, you allow, and you remain free. Like clouds drifting across the sky, thoughts come and go, yet the vastness of the sky remains untouched. Detachment is becoming that vastness, rather than clinging to the passing clouds. To detach does not mean you stop participating in life. On the contrary, you participate more fully because you are no longer enslaved by fear or greed. You can give without expecting return. You can work without needing recognition. You can love without demanding possession. This is not weakness. This is not avoidance. This is strength of the highest order. Only one who is free from attachment can truly live without fear of loss. Only one who has tasted detachment can embrace both gain and loss with equal composure. The power of detachment is the power of stability. In a world that moves unpredictably, detachment is the ground beneath your feet. In relationships that change, detachment is the anchor of self-respect. In ambitions that rise and fall, detachment is the calm in the storm. It is not the escape from life, but the mastery of it. It transforms reaction into response, turmoil into balance, dependence into freedom. When you look at detachment not as a philosophy but as a practice, you begin to see it in every aspect of life. In how you speak, in how you work, in how you love, in how you let go. Each moment is an opportunity to loosen the grip, to soften the chains, to step back into clarity. The power of detachment is not something gained from the outside. It is already within, waiting for recognition. It is the quiet strength that allows you to experience without being enslaved, to hold without clinging, to live without fear of loss, to move through life as the vast sky that remains untouched even as storms come and go. Self-respect is not an idea you carry only in your mind. It is an energy that radiates through every aspect of your being. When a person respects themselves, their words, their movements, their choices, and even the way they breathe reflects this inner state. To live without self-respect is to drain your life force little by little, giving away energy to situations and people that neither value you nor strengthen you. To live with self-respect is to anchor yourself in clarity, to guard your boundaries without hostility, and to let your energy flow in the direction of growth rather than depletion. Energy follows attention. Wherever you direct your focus, your energy naturally flows. If your attention is constantly placed on pleasing others, proving yourself, or seeking validation, then you are pouring your vital energy into a bottomless container. You will find yourself exhausted, anxious, and unsatisfied because no amount of external approval can substitute for the inner foundation of self-respect. But when you begin to honor yourself, to treat your time, your words, your body, and your mind as sacred, you redirect energy inward. This inward energy is not selfishness, it is self-alignment. And from this alignment, you can give outwardly in a balanced way without feeling diminished. Consider how often people compromise their own truth to fit expectations. They say yes when they mean no. They stay silent when they need to speak. They tolerate disrespect because they fear losing connections. Each of these small moments is an energy leak. Over time, the leaks accumulate, and the person feels empty, disconnected, and powerless. Self-respect is the act of closing these leaks. It is saying, my energy is valuable, my presence matters, and my boundaries are not negotiable. This declaration does not need to be spoken aloud. It is lived through consistent action. When you cultivate self-respect, your energy field becomes steady. People feel it when they are around you. They may not be able to describe it, but they notice that you carry yourself differently, that you do not bend to unhealthy pressures, that your silence has weight, and that your words are chosen carefully. This steadiness makes you less vulnerable to manipulation. It shields you from situations that would drain you because your energy communicates clearly before you even need to explain yourself. Self-respect becomes a protective force, and your energy rises naturally as a result. Self-respect also influences how you use your inner resources. If you respect yourself, you will not feed your body with poison. You will not let your mind be consumed by negativity, and you will not spend hours of your life engaging in habits that deplete you. Instead, you choose food, thoughts, and practices that nourish your being. Every act of respect toward yourself adds to your energy reserves. Over days and years, this becomes visible in your vitality, your posture, your ability to recover from setbacks, and your calmness in the face of challenges. Many people confuse self-respect with pride or arrogance. But true self-respect has no need to compare, no need to dominate, no need to prove superiority. Arrogance drains energy because it is constantly seeking external validation. Self-respect, however, conserves and generates energy because it comes from an inner knowing. It is the quiet recognition that you are enough as you are, and that your life force is too precious to be wasted on things that do not serve your higher path. Imagine energy as water stored in a vessel. If the vessel is cracked with self-doubt, with constant self-criticism, with fear of judgment, then no matter how much water you pour in, it will leak out. The person may try to replenish it through achievements, through recognition, through distractions, but the leaks remain. Only self-respect can seal those cracks. Once the vessel is whole, energy begins to accumulate. It becomes available not only for survival, but for creativity, love, discipline, and purpose. The path of self-respect is not always easy, because it often requires walking away from what is familiar but harmful. It may demand our solitude instead of false belonging. It may require speaking truths that others do not want to hear. It may call for patience when the world pushes for haste. But every time you choose self-respect over compromise, you reclaim a part of your energy that was previously lost. Over time, this reclaimed energy becomes your strength. Self-respect is deeply tied to self-awareness. To respect yourself, you must first know yourself. You must be willing to look at your patterns, your values, your weaknesses, and your strengths without illusion. This honesty creates clarity, and clarity strengthens respect. When you understand your worth, your limits, and your capacity, you naturally act in ways that honor them. And with every act of honor, your energy grows more focused, more concentrated, and more powerful. Energy and self-respect are not separate. They mirror one another. A person with low self-respect radiates scattered energy. A person with high self-respect radiates grounded energy. The more you respect yourself, the more your energy aligns with your purpose. The more your energy aligns, the more life responds with opportunities that reflect that alignment. It is a cycle of reinforcement. Respect generates energy, energy strengthens respect, and together they create a life of balance and inner power. Life often presents itself as a stage, and on this stage we wear countless masks. These masks are not always physical, yet they are deeply ingrained in the ways we act, the choices we make, and the identities we project to the world. We wear them to fit into expectations, to avoid conflict, or to gain approval. But behind every mask lies something hidden, our true priorities. The challenge is not that we do not have priorities, but that many of them are obscured by the masks we continuously put on. To unmask our true priorities requires honesty, courage, and the willingness to confront the illusions we live under. From an early age, we are conditioned to adopt values that may not belong to us. A child grows up learning what parents, teachers, and society deem important. Study hard, find a stable job, buy a house, accumulate wealth. These become the markers of success. But often, they are borrowed goals. They serve as masks that hide the deeper desires of the spirit. Without reflection, one may spend decades pursuing goals that never truly belong to them, while the things that truly matter, peace, connection, health, presence, are ignored. The unmasking process begins when we pause and ask, whose priorities am I actually living? Unmasking true priorities is not a single revelation, but a continuous peeling away of layers. Each mask represents a role, an identity, a set of obligations. There is the mask of ambition, which pushes us toward achievements but often leaves us exhausted. There is the mask of approval, which drives us to please others but leaves us disconnected from our own truth. There is the mask of fear, which disguises itself as practicality and safety, but in reality, it prevents us from living fully. As long as we wear these masks unconsciously, they dictate our lives. To begin unmasking, we must sit with silence, observe ourselves without judgment, and notice where our actions are in conflict with our inner compass. True priorities reveal themselves not through thought alone, but through the energy we invest. Every day, we pour our time, attention, and effort into certain things. If one claims that health is a priority, but spends little time caring for the body, then the mask of convenience is still in place. If one claims that family is a priority, but the majority of energy is devoted to work and screens, then the mask of distraction is still intact. Unmasking requires that actions and words align, that we no longer hide behind convenient declarations but live according to the truth revealed by our choices. This unmasking often feels uncomfortable because it exposes contradictions. It is far easier to wear a mask and pretend to be aligned with values than to confront the reality that our lives may not match our words. But discomfort is the doorway to transformation. When the mask is removed, what remains is raw, unpolished truth. It may not look as impressive as the mask, but it carries authenticity. Priorities, unmasked, are often simple. The desire to live with health, to feel inner peace, to connect with others in meaningful ways, to grow in understanding, to contribute something real. These are rarely grand or glamorous, but they are the foundation of a life lived without regret. Another layer of this process is the recognition of impermanence. Many of the masks we wear are tied to temporary circumstances. A title at work, the accumulation of material possessions, or the approval of a social circle, these masks fade with time. When they fall away, what remains is the essence of who we are and what we value. The unmasking process teaches us to invest in what endures: wisdom, compassion, integrity, presence. These cannot be stripped away by changing circumstances, and they form the bedrock of true priorities. Still, the pull of the mask is strong. Society rewards masks more than authenticity. People often admire the mask of success, even if it hides exhaustion and emptiness. They praise the mask of confidence, even if behind it lies fear and doubt. To unmask oneself in such a world is to swim against the current. It demands strength to let go of appearances and turn inward, to trust the quiet voice within rather than the loud noise outside. This strength is not forceful. It is the quiet resilience of knowing what truly matters and being willing to live according to it. When priorities are unmasked, clarity follows. Decisions that once felt complicated become simple because the compass is clear. Instead of asking, "What will others think?" or "What will I gain?" the guiding question becomes, "Does this align with what truly matters to me?" With this clarity, time is no longer wasted on pursuits that drain the spirit. Energy flows where it should, toward what sustains life, what deepens meaning, what brings alignment. The process of unmasking is not about rejecting responsibilities or abandoning goals. It is about refining focus, ensuring that the path we walk is truly ours and not a projection of borrowed expectations. It is about realizing that life is finite and the currency of time cannot be spent twice. To spend it on masks is to squander it. To spend it on true priorities is to honor it. And so the practice becomes one of daily awareness, noticing when a mask is being worn, questioning its purpose, and gently setting it aside so that what lies beneath may shine without disguise. Distance has often been misunderstood as separation, as something that creates division, emptiness, or a sense of being apart. Yet when observed with clarity, distance is not the absence of connection, but the very space that allows growth to take root. Just as a seed buried in the soil requires room to expand its roots before it can rise toward the sun, human beings also require space, physical, emotional, and spiritual, to understand themselves, to strengthen their inner foundation, and to evolve into their higher potential. When you are too close to something, you cannot see its full shape. The mountain viewed from its base appears overwhelming, its size impossible to measure, its structure incomprehensible. But when you step back and create distance, the form of the mountain reveals itself. You can see its peaks, its valleys, its strength. The same principle applies to life. In constant closeness, in unbroken immersion with people, with habits, with circumstances, the truth often becomes hidden. Patterns go unnoticed. Cycles repeat without awareness. It is only when distance is introduced that clarity sharpens and the reality of what is truly there can be recognized. Distance creates perspective, and perspective becomes the teacher. When a person is deeply entangled in relationships, ambitions, or struggles, the intensity can cloud judgment. Emotions dominate, attachment blinds, and the mind becomes restless. By creating distance, not in the form of abandonment, but in the form of stepping back, space is given for reflection. That space is not empty. It is filled with observation, with silence, with the opportunity to realign one's intentions. Through distance, one can observe without the immediate pull of desire or fear. Growth requires this observation. Without distance, reactions dominate. With distance, responses are chosen. To grow means to rise above automatic behavior, to learn from patterns rather than repeat them unconsciously. Consider the tree that grows in the forest. If another tree grows too close, their roots and branches fight for light, for water, for air. Neither tree can grow to its full height because the closeness restricts their expansion. But when distance is created, each tree has the freedom to stretch, to draw nourishment without obstruction, to rise without limitation. The same occurs in human relationships and life situations. Too much closeness restricts, but the right distance nurtures expansion. It is within distance that self-knowledge begins to deepen. When constantly surrounded by noise, by the voices of others, by external demands, it becomes difficult to hear the inner voice. Distance quiets the noise. It provides the silence in which the true voice can emerge. In that silence, one begins to question, what do I truly want? What values are guiding me? What is essential and what is unnecessary weight I have carried simply because I never paused to reflect? These questions are not born in constant activity. They arise when space allows them to surface. Distance also reveals the impermanence of attachment. Many people cling to situations or individuals out of fear of loneliness, fear of loss, fear of uncertainty. Yet distance gently shows that attachment is often a chain that limits growth. By stepping away, one realizes that life continues, that the self is capable of standing, that dependence is an illusion of comfort. Growth comes when one sees that freedom from unhealthy attachments does not weaken connection but strengthens it. True relationships are not suffocated by distance, they are purified by it, tested by it, and made more authentic because of it. There is also the spiritual dimension of distance. In meditation, in practice, the seeker learns to distance themselves from the chatter of the mind, not by escaping the mind, but by stepping back from identification with it. This distance reveals that thoughts are like clouds, passing, changing, never permanent. When one creates distance from the mind's endless activity, the awareness that remains becomes the field of growth. It is in this space that wisdom matures, where insights arise without force, where understanding comes naturally like water finding its path down the mountain. Growth through distance does not mean isolation or rejection. It means creating enough space to see clearly, to breathe fully, to live intentionally. Sometimes this distance is physical, removing oneself from environments that limit expansion. Sometimes it is emotional, choosing not to be entangled in conflicts that drain energy. Sometimes it is mental, stepping back from obsessive thoughts and giving space for clarity. In every case, distance becomes the soil in which growth can flourish. When distance is embraced, resilience strengthens. Without space, every difficulty feels unbearable. With space, the difficulty is seen as a teacher. Just as an artist steps back from the canvas to see the full picture, so too must one step back from their life circumstances to recognize the patterns, the lessons, and the opportunities hidden within them. This stepping back does not diminish involvement in life, rather, it enriches it, because now engagement comes from awareness rather than blindness. Growth through distance is not instant. It requires patience because the fruits of stepping back often appear slowly. The silence may feel uncomfortable, the separation may feel painful, the space may feel like emptiness. But in that emptiness, new strength gathers. In that silence, new direction emerges. In that space, transformation takes root. What seems like separation at first gradually reveals itself as connection on a higher level, because the self that grows through distance returns with greater clarity, deeper strength, and a more expansive vision of life.